So the first thing that everyone here uh, might have is the idea. So today in today's workshop, we will try to convert this idea into a mobile application. But before we start developing and before we start actually building the application, we need to go through some steps that are essential for us to understand, to build a powerful application and that can be maintainable in the future, that we chose the correct decisions for a long-term application that can work for us really well. So to start, I have divided the workshop into three segments. The first one is business, design, and development. I think there are more segments into real application, but for a startup and for someone in a university, I think we can cover these would be more than enough for a beginner into developing mobile applications. So let's start with the business. So the first step is to start planning your business based on the market research that you can perform, or if you have any kind of knowledge in this field, that application that you, or idea of the application that you have. And the best way to bring together all your ideas into some sort of way that you will be able to not forget, first of all, and be able to stick with in the future also while you are working on the application, is to put it into the business model canvas. Uh, it's a really common it's a really common canvas. I think it's widely used in startups. It helps you better shape your idea into a business. So rather than having one idea, you can understand what is the potential of this business, who's you are targeting, and put it all together into one place that you can look at it in every stage of development and maybe adjust on it, update it, and work and make this model fit your business the best way. So I will just go through quickly what this business model include. So the first thing that include is the value proposition. You need to define what kind of values you want to give to your customers, what kind of values your app is going to have, what makes it different than other applications. It's really important also in other stages while you are designing and planning your application. The second item in this list is the customer segments. You need to define who you are targeting exactly. Are they university students? Are they grown-up professionals, fresh graduates? You need to put some sort of a persona or an imaginary person that you want to say that this is my perfect customer. This is who I am targeting. For us to go to the next steps, if you have this in mind, if you set it from this stage, it will be easier for you to develop an application that is customer based, that is something customized for your exact customer that you want to target. The third part is the channels. Channels probably will be through social media or uh, through advertisement on social media, also blogs and things like that. So for mobile apps, you will probably go through regular social media and technology applications. Customer relationship. So how you want to deal with your customer? Do you want to reply to them quickly? Do you want to have a friendly way of dealing with your customer? Do you want to have a more professional way? It's all up to you to decide from now, so you can understand the language and the design that you will be going to use in your application. How you will make money with your revenue streams. Um, a really common thing in mobile applications to put ads. From my experience, I have put ads in my apps before. It can make some money, but is it enough? Does it cover the cost? It's something up to how many numbers and how much cost you have in your application. We can cover this also in the Q&A if you have any more question about that. The sixth element is the key resources, the people and knowledge means, and the money you need to run your business. So you need to list them down, what you need exactly to run your business. Who are your partners also is important. And we are not talking about suppliers here. We are talking about people you can partner with to boost your business. For example, some communities like Startup Bahrain, or things that can help you go up, grow your business, and as a partner, not as a supplier. Uh, you also need to list down the key activities that you need to run your business on a daily basis. This is also for you to understand how much time it will take from you, and you will probably list you will need to adjust it uh, while you are growing your business. But it's key to have an idea. It's good to have an idea from now what kind of activities, how much time and effort you need to spend to run your business. Then the last element in this business model is the cost structure. So how much does it cost you? We will get into how you will decide and the different types of costs that you can a mobile app will be having in the next slides, inshallah. All right, so now you populated your business model, you have it already, and now you can move on to the next step. The next step is defining your MVP. If you haven't heard about MVP, it's the minimum valuable product. This step is essential for you to create the list of features that are mostly basic features and essential for you to run your business based on the business model that you have done. It is really important for you to do this step for many reasons. One of them is that you want to create your version 1.0 of the application. And many businesses and many applications, when they start up, they are excited. They want to add a lot of features. They want to add AI. They want to add things that are not necessarily being used by the users. It kind of considered to be the biggest risk to spend a lot of time and resources on building features that users don't actually want. And building version 1.0 with basic and minimum features allow you also to get customer feedback from an early stage. So once you get the customer feedback, you will be able to understand what kind of features you can add on in version 2, in version 3, in version 4, and so on. So a good example for an MVP is a platform that I guess everyone knows, Twitch. So Twitch, if anyone doesn't know Twitch is the world leading live stream platform for gamers. It is currently evaluated in billions. So it's a huge website and a huge service. And as you can see in the picture, it looks really good. It looks really nice. It's well developed. A lot of people depend on this to have a living, and they can make money and have a living from these streams. Okay, so what we're talking about Twitch, Twitch, it didn't start like this. So how did Twitch started? It started as Justin TV. So the founder, who's called Justin, had an idea that he wanted to stream his life 24/7, and and called the actually it was not called Twitch, it was called Justin TV. And it has only one channel, which is his channel. It has a low resolution video, pixelated one, and nothing related to video games. So people were talking to him in the chats and asking him that they want to stream themselves. They didn't like what he's doing, but they wanted the opportunity to stream themselves. So what Justin did is that he switched his business model, and he pivoted it to a new business model that targeted what his customers or users wanted. So this is how we got our reach to Twitch today. So just imagine you having the same idea and building it in an early stage, publishing your MVP, getting your customer feedback. From your customer feedback, you will be able to decide, do I need to work on the features that I like, or what the customer likes? And this is a great lesson for us to understand why we are going through the business model canvas from the beginning, and why we are not directly going to developing the app. Especially if you are a programmer or a developer, you would want to just dive into the code and try new features and try new things, and it's what gets you excited sometimes. Uh, but the same thing sometimes, if you take one step or two steps before you start developing your code, it might get you in a lot of benefits that you will be thankful for in the future. Another great example is Facebook, or what was used to call the Facebook. So it started also with a minimal design with small features only for university students. And now it has a great features, almost calling features, video calling, chat, post, walls, everything that you'd imagine in a social media. I think almost Facebook have it now. And it didn't start from one uh, from the beginning like this. It started small. It started with minimum features, with just a small idea, and then it was grown year by year, version by version, until it reached this place. And this is the kind of approach we will need to take into consideration when we try to build our application, so that we don't end up spending 3 or 4 years building something that users will not be willing to use or willing uh, to buy it, or whatever application that you are using, you're creating. So this concludes the first section. The second section will be the design. And when we talk about design for mobile application, we talk about UI and UX. If you haven't heard these terms, UI stands for user interface. Basically, the design that the user is going to see, from buttons, text fields, to anything basically that the design that the user will going to see in your app, any sort of visual elements in your app. And the second concept is the UX, which stands for the user experience. This is a very important part of developing a mobile application, because UX, or the user experience, is going to be the journey of the users in your app, and how the users interacted with your app. Is it a smooth experience? Is it a confusing, complicated experience for them? How did they feel when they interacted with your app? And UX, as a mobile development and a mobile applications, users are interacting more into your front end, and they don't really see what's happening in the back end. So if your UX is good, your the impression of users will be uh, you will give, they will give you higher ratings. They will like your application. They will appreciate your application, because it will not make them frustrated, or it will not complicate their lives. So the first thing that you need to do in the design section for when you build a mobile application is prototyping. So what are apps prototypes? They are basically mock-ups that looks like the real app and demonstrate an app fundamental design and functionalities. So before we start developing our application, we need to do the prototype to test what kind of features we want to develop. We want to see them in uh, like something similar to how it will look in the real life, so we can fix them in the design phase. It's easier to fix it in the design phase than developing the whole feature and then discovering these problems and returning back and changing our codes, changing maybe in the backend, and so on. So good prototypes help you also create better scope estimation, how much scope you are going to include in version 1.0, for example, or version 2.0. It will also help you estimate the development time frame, how much time frame you are going to need to develop it, because you can see exactly how many screens that you have, and how much effort you can put into make this happen. Third thing is efficiently plan your development. Now you can see the full picture. You have it all in front of you, and design and what you need to do. You just need to figure out how can you plan to make this happen. Also, you can quickly add and remove features. As we said, it is easier to add and remove in the design phase rather than waiting for us to develop the feature and put some time and effort discovering how can we make it work in code, and then deciding just to change it because it didn't work well with other features or for any other reason. So yeah, so there are two types of design prototypes. there's the low fidelity prototype, which is basically could be a sketch. So you just grab a pencil and draw on a notebook how the design would be look like, and how what kind of screens, if you click on this button, where it will go, and everything. So fidelity here uh, stand for the number of details in a prototype. So it's a low fidelity there, so there is minimum details. I don't need you to draw me the icons really well. I just need you to show me that this is an icon, just a circle, or just something that represents an icon in a simple way, for example. And this is an example on the screen on how a low fidelity prototype would look like. Uh, it's not necessarily should it be in pencil or on papers. There are some programs that allows you to do low fidelity prototypes. There is some program called Balsamic. Also, there are some free softwares that you can use. So after you create the prototype, what you need to do, or what you want to do, is to validate your prototype. And to do that, you want to give it to someone that is, if you can, from your target audience, from your customer segments that you defined in the business model canvas, or from your friends or family, just to see how they interact with. To do that, you can use a tool called Envision. So what Envision allows you to do is that you can screenshot every screen, and then inside of the program you can decide, or you can map the buttons and map a functionality. When someone click on that button, it will move him to another page. Uh, you can do a lot of things that will help you improve your user experience. You can test and validate your uh, your user your user experience, your user journey, and it's a powerful tool, and you can try it with the sketch. So you don't need to have a full design. You can try it from this stage, and from this stage you can adjust and edit until you get the perfect user journey that you can use to move on to the next steps within the app process, development process. So you can use any tool that you like. Envision is a really famous one. I just included for your reference, but you can use any tools. There are many in the market. So when to use a low fidelity prototype, when you want to quickly learn the scale of your app, you want to quickly understand how much is the scope of your application. When you want to test a feature or test an idea that you want to do. So the second type of prototype is the high fidelity prototype. This would be the closest that you can get to how the app will actually look like, and when it's fully developed. It will contain colors, it will contain some pictures. You need to test how the pictures actually look like in the applications. And just to test your design sense, to test if the application is actually is in its, let's say, final form, does it look like how you had in mind, or is it a different way? And with the high fidelity prototype, you have variety of tools. Three of the famous ones are Adobe XD, Figma, Sketch. I personally used Adobe XD a lot when I was in university, just because it was free, and it used to work on almost any device. Figma is also a great option. However, I think the free is limited. Sketch is also another really powerful tool. However, doesn't work. It only works on Mac OS. So this is the only limitation in Sketch. Also, it's not free. But Adobe XD can get you started, can give you almost all the functionalities that you need to start with designing your high fidelity prototype. And if you are good at it, you can also still develop the low fidelity using Adobe XD. It will give you the functionality of Envision also within Adobe XD, but we don't want it. I didn't want it to be too complicated, so I showed you you can do it even by drawing on a piece of paper. So when to use a high fidelity prototype, if you want to start developing before you decide on the final design, when you have a low fidelity that is tested and acceptable, you want to pitch the idea for a non-technical audience or for a hackathon or inside of a competition, or you just want to do some market research before you develop your application. You can take as we said, you can take the app, you can run it on your phone. There are some mobile applications with that work with Adobe XD that you can show it to someone, give it in a real phone, and they can click on it. They can get the sense and feel of how the application will work when it's fully developed. So you can see if they have any feedback from the users. Did they like it? You need to improve, where you need to improve on. So this will conclude our design section. The third section will be the development. So developing the application is also one of the most interesting one because you have a lot of options. So in terms of the languages, in terms of what kind of framework you need to use, and so on. So when starting your developing, or if you are a programmer and you want to start, sometimes it's going to be overwhelmed. You will hear some advices that you need to use this, you need to use this. So rather than saying that, let's review our options. Let's see what kind of options that we have as a small startups, and let's see what fit us the most. So sometimes the best might not fit us because of it will cost us a lot, or it's going to be time consuming, or it will be hard to manage as one person or two person or a team of 3 or 5 or a small team. So this whole section was developed with this in mind. So let's get started. So if you don't, this is how an application, like a basic application, might look like. There is the app here on this side, we're running on your phone, which is called the front end, and you have the back end, which have all your data, your database, your APIs, and everything. And to develop this, you might need to develop it from scratch, you will need a lot of time, a long time to do it. So sometimes it can, and you need to do it in different languages. So the languages that you will use, programming languages that you will use on the app will be different in API level, and it will be different in SQL. So there is a lot of learning, there is a lot of efforts that you will need to put. So to help reduce this effort for a small startup and for people who are getting started, there is something called MBAS, or Mobile Backend as a Service. And these are basically services that are going to store and maintain your data, store and maintain your data. They will help you run the backend part of your application, and they are developed specifically for mobile applications. So you will have SDKs or software development kits that you can import into your projects and can connect directly from the application to these services. So it will also help you reduce the things that you need to develop, and you don't need to care about if the server is up or down. You have to maintain it, and a lot of other features that mobile backend as a service for a small startup will be beneficial for them. So there are two main, let's say there are a lot of backend as service, but there are two major, let's say, services that are available right now. One from Google, which is Firebase. The other one is from AWS, which is AWS Amplify. Personally, I have used Firebase a lot during my university days. Almost every project or every mobile project that I wanted to do, I will just start it with Firebase, just because how easy it is to set up. And because it's from Google, so it's also integrated within the ecosystem of Google for Android Studio and things that you use to develop mobile applications. But AWS Amplify is a really solid option also. Firebase also gives you a free a free subscription that can also gives you a big advantage in the beginning. So you don't need to pay in the beginning. You can run an MVP and probably for some time before you start paying. So it's a good option also to consider, other than the other option of building everything by yourself, that you will need to pay for hosting or you need to pay for the cloud to store all your data and maintain it. So this is also a good option for a limited budget for a startup. So this is how it will look like. It will be using a Firebase SDK within the app, and it will connect directly with Firebase, for example, here. Firebase also have a lot of features that are specifically developed for mobile applications that will help you get the best performance sometimes within the service. Rather than building things that are used to be developed for web, you can use these solutions that will be directly for mobile applications. So let's get back to the front end, which is the most important thing I think for this session. So the most important question that you need to ask yourself, what kind of mobile app you want to develop? And there are three main application types: native applications, hybrid, and cross-platform. And every one of them has their advantages and have their disadvantage. Let's just first understand what they are, and then let's see comparison between them. So the first thing is the native application. It is what the native operating system ask the developers to use in their development. So if the company Google created Android, they will ask users to use specific languages like Java and Kotlin, as these are the native one for their operating system. And likewise for iOS, Apple asks developers to use and provided the tools and tool chain and the whole ecosystem based on Swift, their programming language, and they have promoted this language as their own native language for their platform. So developing native applications means that you are developing it the way that Google or Apple decided that they wanted you to do it. However, there is another option, which is hybrid. Hybrid is a solution for you to, if you have knowledge in web development and web solutions, and you want to do something that you don't want to learn something new, you just want to use your knowledge in web and apply it into mobile applications. You can use things like Ionic, PhoneGap here, and write the whole application with a language similar to the web for using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and using this Apache Cordova and Ionic capacitor also to convert your code, your web code, into mobile applications. So this is one of the options that is used. And the third one is going to be the cross-platform. So the cross-platform is also developers to write code once. It's the same way in hybrid, you only need to write the code once, and using the Cordova, you can publish it to iOS and to Android. The same way here in cross-platform, you will only write it once. However, many people mistake that hybrid and cross-platform are the same, but the only similarity between them are the code reusability or code shareability. Let's get into more details. What is the differences between them in this slide? So here we listed all types of mobile applications: native, hybrid, and cross-platform. So let's start comparing them based on code base. In native, what you will have to do is that you will have to create a project for Android and a different project for iOS. So we will have two different projects to publish your application on Android and on iOS. So it might not sound like a big thing now, but in the future, when you want to upgrade your application or to do some updates, you need to recreate the feature in Android code and then recreate it in iOS code. So it's going to be a bigger task on developers compared to other platforms. Hybrid applications is single-based, and also cross-platform is single code-based, which means that you need to write one code, one project, and publish it to both platforms. So the pros of native, you will have high performance, full access to device and OS features. You will have native UI updated along with the OS. So whenever the OS is updated, you will have your UI also updated based on that update on the operating system. And for hybrid, you will have multiple OS support, and you will have potential to customization capabilities. So let's say, for example, uh, you want to uh, put some elements from iOS or similar to iOS into Android, you might be able to do some kind of tricks like that. Code is reused also. In cross-platform, your elements are almost the same as native. The cons of using native is that single platform only, no code reusability. So we'll have to maintain two code bases. Hybrid applications, the cons of it is that the performance issue OS, uh, the performance issues that might happen, OS features access restrictions. So because you are not using the native language, you might not be able to access some features in the OS because you are depending on the middleware that converts your code into the mobile application. In cross-platform, there is a poor performance and also limited access to some features. So the rendering engine here also, in native application, it uses the native rendering engine of the operating system. So rendering engine is what takes the code to display it on the user screen. So it's kind of important to understand to use the native to use the native rendering engine is really good for your application, so it can render in a really good way. Hybrid, it's using the browser. It's not using the native rendering engine. This is what might be one of the big factors why the hybrid has a poor performance. And cross-platform is similar to native, is using the native rendering engine. Tools to develop with native Xcode for iOS. However, Xcode is an IDE that only can be downloaded and used on macOS. Android Studio for Android. Hybrid, you can use Ionic. Yeah, you can use Apache Cordova. For cross-platform, there are two main or major platforms: React Native, Flutter, and there is also something called Xamarin, which is a .NET framework. In terms of cost, native is the highest cost. Because you need to maintain two code base, you might need two developers to work on it, or two developer teams to work on it. Hybrid is more cost effective because you can also reuse your web developers to build mobile applications. Cross-platform is also more cost effective than native, and time to market. The last thing is time to market. Time in native is time consuming because you need to the same reasons. You need to develop for two projects, and it is more complex to have the same look and feel on both platforms when you are developing two different projects. For hybrid, it's more time saver, and also for cross-platform for the same reason, for having one code base rather than two different code bases. So basically, this is the main types of mobile applications. So when you look at you or yourself as a startup, as someone who wants to create a new mobile application, and you consider what kind that fits me the most, or fits my startup or my idea the most. If your idea have a lot of access to OS features like GPS and camera and all these features that are brought in within the application, you would be better going with native than other types. However, if you have, for example, a small business idea that can be implemented really quickly, you are not planning to add any features, for example, with GPS or with NFC or interacting with all these physical devices on your phone, hybrid might be the best option for you, especially that you can do it quickly and it will be easily for you to maintain it. Cross-platform is something between both. So if you don't need full access to native features, but you might consider something like this in the future, and it's more cost-effective for you, so you might want to choose cross-platform as it's something between both hybrid and native. Uh, from my information in Flutter also, you can have, if Flutter has some limitation as a framework and you want to access some sort of OS features that are built in within an application. So what you can do is that you can create some sort of a bridge into the native application or native projects and develop that feature in native code and link it to Flutter. So this is also a way that that Flutter overcome this issue. And yeah, so that's it for the mobile apps types. So right now, let's talk about how you can publish your application. So once you have your application ready and you have developed it, you have chose the types, you have developed it based on the design that you have chosen, uh, you have everything figured out and you want to publish it, what you need to consider are you need to create two developer accounts, one for the Google Play Store and the other one for the App Stores. For the Google Play Store, it will be around $225 one-time fee that you will need to pay to be able to access the Google Play Store console and upload applications whenever you like and for lifetime. But for the Apple Store, you will need to pay it $100, around $100 annually. And this developer account, you can also access and publish applications on it. And it might be used, the same developer account might be used for developing some features. However, in all our options or all types of applications that we reviewed in the earlier slides, if you want to develop or run applications on iOS, you will need to have a macOS. This is a limitation from Apple. So even for you, if you want to publish an application, you will need, and you develop the application with Ionic, for example, a hybrid type, you will still need to run it on a macOS and build the project on macOS, and you probably need to run it on a physical iPhone, enable you for you to be eligible to publish your application on App Store. So yeah, there are many other stores, but these are the major applications and major application stores right now. So in this workshop today, we have covered the business side, the business model canvas, MVP, how to decide your MVP. We have covered also the design part, what is high fidelity prototype and low fidelity. We have covered the development side of the applications, what is front end and what are your options as a startup in terms of backend. And we reviewed some information about the backend as a service. We have also reviewed the front end of a mobile application, what are the types of applications. And we have also talked about the publishing your application. So thank you everyone for joining in.